Welcome back to the Philosophy Podcast, episode number 5. So, at the end of the show, we're going to tell you what the future of our show looks like. So, be sure that you tune in for that. But what I really want to hone in right now with our audience is this. Most of you who are getting ready to go into college, starting your first year, or even some of you in your second year, or some in high school, but this rarely happens in high school. It's college campuses taking away your morals, making you feel this big, making you feel like a racist. If you say that you support cops, they'll call you a racist. If you say that you love your country, you're a racist or you're selfish. What I'm trying to tell you here is this. You're about to enter the woke mob. What does that mean? Your college professors are going to be totally against you. You're going to have the pink hair gurus and the yellow and the green hair gurus coming at you left and right, telling you what's wrong with you. Maybe they should look in a mirror because of the morals that you come to school with. If you stand for a low tax and a better America and an America First agenda, where our country and our economical standpoints to be good, they'll call you selfish. They'll call you a racist, a bigot, every single time that they get a chance. If you tell them that you support President Trump, they'll call you a racist again. They'll tell you that you have a mental issue. But meanwhile, if you have an American flag behind you, they'll say that's offensive. But their flag of another country is not offensive. Their photos of another president are not offensive, but yours are. And why is that? Because they're going to try to cancel you. This is where they get you. And this is where they're going to try to change America. And the only way that we could save America is don't bow down to this woke culture. You have to fight the mob with everything you got. You have to take your morals in there and you got to hold on to the both of them as tight as you possibly can. And you need to fight for what's right. Because the moment that you step foot on that college campus, you're in their world and they don't like what you stand for. So which one will you be? Will you be a weak person and bow down to every single thing that they tell you? Will you let them tell you that the government deserves 50% of the money that you make? Will you let them tell you that paying $100 to fill up your car with gas is the right way and it helps families financially and economically? Will you continue to support our government with paying people to be poor? Why we don't have any waiters, waitresses to work? Why stores are closing at outrageous times? Because now, with nobody to work, because our country is paying people to be poor. What do you stand for? Do you stand for the America that we were before COVID? A bright, a promising future ahead for America? A booming economy? Unheard of, that we've never seen before. Gas prices low. So what if the guy talked a lot of shit? So what if he wasn't so nice to everybody? That's business. He was running a business, and dead people voted for him, and dead people tried to fire him. Because nobody had a backbone, and they lost to the woke mob. And now look at our country. We're paying extremely outrageous prices for our gas. Inflations are going up. There's nobody to work. Our police aren't respected. Are you going to let them stop you? Are you going to let them change your mind? Or are you going to keep on fighting for the America that you believe that we can one day get back to with an America First agenda? That's up to you. I got kicked out of classes and they ask, you got to stop. I said, no. They said, why? I go, because I got to keep on fighting. Because if one of us goes down, then they'll go for the next one and the next one. But if one of us just keeps on fighting and standing tall, there's thousands, hundreds, millions of us all ready to be there and keep fighting. This is the Philosophy Podcast. And we're back, and this is the Philosophy Podcast. Today, I am honored and pleased to welcome Coach Rich Robinson to the podcast. Rich currently serves as the Director of Training at the Anvil in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, boys lacrosse coach at St. Joseph's Regional High School, and boys lacrosse coach for the New Jersey Riot. Prior to the Anvil and Rich's other ventures, he is a decorated college athlete representing both Boston College and Villanova University on the track and field teams. Competing on the Division I circuit, Rich Robinson has helped to produce and continues to help guide and develop the state's best athletes as they progress in their athletic careers. We're extremely excited to have him. Rich, welcome to the show. It's an honor to have you.
I tell you what, it's an honor to be here with you. I know what you guys have been doing for a while because I got a chance to see you during the season. And you mentioned at some point we wanted to do a podcast. And I tell you what, it's completely my pleasure to be here and an honor to be with you guys as well.
I think this is like the icing on the cake for the week. You met President Trump the other day, and now we got Rich Robinson. I mean, it is just like a whirlwind that's happening this week.
That's a tough comparison right there. And he's one of my heroes as well, too. I think he's a great guy, great American. And the more people that we have out there that are giving back to this country is always a benefit for the country and the people. And if I could emulate myself to be anywhere like President Trump, I'm in a pretty good spot. But great guy, and that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to basically work with a lot of young guys that are trying to make their mark in this world. And that's pretty much what my job as a coach is, kind of to guide and to be a mentor to these guys, not just in the weight room, but also off the field as well, too, because that's kind of where most of the life lessons are taught.
We really look at this, and I said to my buddy Jake, I said, I really want to get Rich on the podcast because it's all about the people that watch this podcast, right? We're trying to inspire people. We're trying, save America or model fit in or fuck off. We're really trying to bring people together and guide them in a direction that we could do as best as possible, whether it be successful business, stocks, life, whatever it is. So right out of the bat, how did you get your start in training these athletes and coaching lacrosse? Because, you were a track and field star. So how do you make that jump to lacrosse?
That's a great question. So track and field was probably something that was bred into me. My father was a tremendous athlete. He was a three-time All-American in college for Fordham. He went on to compete for the New York Athletic Club, and then he coached at Princeton University. So I had the availability when I was younger to be around some great athletes that my dad was coaching. And then be around the New York Athletic Club, which is one of the better athletic clubs probably in the world, and to be around a lot of Olympic athletes as I was young. I did wind up playing lacrosse in high school for St. Joe's. I was pretty integral actually in starting the lacrosse program at St. Joe's when I was about 15 years old. And so lacrosse was my love. Unfortunately, we were a new program at the time, and I had my feet immersed in the track and field world, so I was excelling. And I think my senior year, I think I had probably like about 60 to 70 Division I scholarship offers, and lacrosse, nothing at all. So it was obviously my talents were going to be needed in the track and field area. But lacrosse, you just have a love for it. And after college, I played a little semi-pro lacrosse in Chicago for Windy City Lacrosse for about 4 years. And at that point, just started working on my profession. And then I moved back to New Jersey in 2001. And my cousin, Pat Jackson, is the owner of Greenwich Youth Lacrosse. So on the weekends, I was training with him, working with his athletes up there. And that's kind of how I got back into the lacrosse world and working with lacrosse athletes.
So what made you pick Boston College?
I tell you what, Boston College was, Boston's a great place to go to school. That's a great question as well. I don't think there's probably a finer place in this country to go to school than being in Boston. And I love the school with all my heart. But the U.S. Olympic track and field coach at the time was at Villanova University. After my sophomore year, I became a full-fledged decathlete. And I think it was probably the best move for me to be under his tutelage and working with him. So I transferred to Villanova. It's a big jump because both schools are so different. One's more inner city. The other school is a little bit more out in the suburbs. But I tell you what, both schools are exceptional schools.
Talk about the transfer, and we're going to get to more about, the success of, the transfer in high school. But at a college level, how hard is that to transfer from one college to another? especially with you know what's going on in that team, but once you get there, now you it's a whole entire restart after 2 years.
Completely. Another great question, Phil. And I tell you what, the beauty about going to one of the Catholic high schools or being from Bergen County, New Jersey, is that when I did transfer to Villanova, I think I had about 7 to 8 classmates that were at Villanova. So I had friends there. My cousin was there, and basically it was at the time it was Big East, both Big East schools. So I think it's basically like the same kids that were at Boston College were the same ones that were at Villanova University, Georgetown. It's very similar. So it was not that hard of a transition. Just the difference of the schools. Boston College is a major Division I football program. Villanova doesn't have that, so you don't have that big, Saturday game against University of Miami. That college experience of that football experience would be the difference.
A really big question that I really have is because you see in the pros, these teams, they go out, they win a Super Bowl, they win an NBA title, and all of a sudden half the players tank. They absolutely tank. Party in the off season. They come back the next season. They're not the same player. How hard is it for you guys at the Anvil to keep your athletes motivated throughout the offseason after they've either had success, but I feel like once they've had the success, it's harder to get back out there to re-motivate themselves?
Yeah, so I think that's kind of the mantra that I try to work with each and every athlete I work with is that I worked with Don Bosco Lacrosse this year. They went through a state championship. I think they were undefeated as well. And the question is, can they repeat? Basically, it's the same exact team. And I think what the motivation is, it's not about winning one particular event. It's about your mindset. And if you're a top-level athlete, it's not about next year, next week. It's about each and every day. That your mindset each and every day has to be, I need to get up, I need to work, I need to produce, and I need to accomplish something. And if you can be in that mindset, not just athletically, but also spiritually and the way you hold your life, you're going to be successful. So basically my job is to these guys, I want them to get in there. I want them to be consistent with lifting 3 to 4 times a week. But the problem is you can't turn that off, that there is no finishing point. That each day you have to get up and be a little bit better than the day before. That takes work and effort. It takes very little work and effort to get up and do nothing. Okay? So basically, in your mind, if you woke up, you accomplished nothing that day, that's a wasted day. And I think if you can get to the frame of mind that, each and every day is so valuable and important and tomorrow's never promised, that for this day today, wake up and accomplish something. There's a great book that probably a lot of the boys are reading. It's called Make Your Bed. And it's about a Navy SEAL.
Saw that speech.
Yeah, it's a phenomenal thing because basically he's saying the first thing they do, he wakes up, he makes his bed. Right away, you're accomplishing something. And I guess if you can get into that frame of mind about starting your day off correctly, the rest of the day is going to be in sequence of that first movement.
Yeah, that's such a big thing, and I've kind of learned that a lot more. That in high school, you get up, go to school, do the same exact thing every single day. But once you're in college, even athletes or whatever you're doing, even with our podcast, I was on the phone with my producer Tanner, and I go, after we take our break, it's time that I want to do for this podcast. You got to live every single day like there's a camera crew following you around. Sure. Because I feel like that everybody, they always see success, but they don't know the ladder that it takes to get to that success.
Truly, it's and I think that's we see a team just for instance, this year was extremely challenging for St. Joe's.
Right.
We had some victories, but as a whole, it was a very difficult year to go through. Now, as much as it was a difficult year to go through, I've never felt more motivation in my life moving forward, because number one, I wasn't satisfied with the result. Number two is the boys worked extremely hard, but the preparation, the COVID year really hurt us tremendously. Not having a whole year of seniors to be able for the younger kids to see what the senior class looks like or see them perform. So they missed out a lot on that. And I would say moving forward, now you went through something. Every great champion or leader or a successful entrepreneur was knocked to the ground tremendously. We were knocked to the ground tremendously this year. But they got up and they went through that roadblock that they had, sitting in front of them maybe 6 months ago. So the teams that we lost to, as far as I'm concerned, now moving forward, we're going to get to see those teams again, and we will be ready for them. And more importantly, that's a process, and I'm so glad for the year that we had, because if we didn't have it, I wouldn't be in the motivational state that I'm in right now.
Right. So I coach in my town, and so now it's 2 seasons ago. The football team I had, won 2 games, lost the rest of the games. This year came out. They went 6-1, won the Super Bowl. Beat every single team that we had. One game was a tie because they didn't want to play us, and we beat the one team that beat us, going to the Super Bowl, and you beat the team that you tied.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah,
it was crazy.
Yeah,
but it's because everybody, they see the success, but they don't see the background. So just as you talked about St. Joe's,
and I would say just one more point on getting to that point. So just say for a team like the state champions, maybe not every boy on that Bosco team was an all-state player. So there's still, you have the state championship, but maybe there's goals. There's always goals that go along. If you reached 1 million viewers on your YouTube channel,
I want to go to 2 million.
You want to go to 2. That's your next goal. You know what I'm trying to say? So ultimately, that's you're in that frame of mind that, okay, I just made some achievement. Now I'm going to make another achievement. And now if we can get the boys around us, especially the ones that are around me, to believe in small little achievements, getting better each and every day, I tell you what, your success is going to be tremendous. But if you go back into your bed, put the covers over your head, you have no chance. You have 0.
Exactly.
And just for instance, as I do work with Riot Lacrosse, recently they have tryouts during the summertime. I do not attend tryouts, just on the record, because it's a difficult situation to be in, because I work with so many of these kids, and a lot of them, there's some boys that were turned away, and they're in their minds, their dreams are completely done. Okay. Oh, on the contrary, I said right then and there, you've been given one of the best opportunities in your entire life. Somebody put a roadblock up in front of you, and now the question is, are you going to go around it, through it, or are you going to go back into your bed, put the covers over your head? No, I'm going to go through that roadblock, I'll go around it, and I will get to where I need to be. And I think if we can get that mindset with our athletes and also the kids that we work with, that's that's an incredible reward.
Well, a big motto that I started to kind of live by is, rule number 1, don't be number 2. And with saying that, we're going to take a short break, and let's cut it to no more bullshit. I got the bullshitting behind me. I got a really good episode going. You know what that means? It's time for no more bullshit. Anyway, so listen, if you got a Snapchat account, everybody knows what a Bitmoji is, right? The things you see on the Snap map, when everybody goes away. Oh, look at me! Look at me! Oh, look where I am. Go to my house. I'm not home. Come follow me. Okay, so anyway, you see their Bitmojis, okay? How annoying is it? This is kind of stupid, but I think it's pretty funny. How annoying is it when these people don't even look like their Bitmojis? I feel like that Bitmoji is a way of catfishing. My Bitmoji has on a suit. Let me see if I can pull up a photo of my Bitmoji. My Bitmoji has on a suit, okay? I don't know if you could really see that, but my Bitmoji has on a suit and aviators. And his hair is pretty damn good, so it looks like me. My buddy Jake's looks like it. My producers looks like him. But then there's these other people where they're this big, and then they're the size of a walrus. Not being mean, but Bitmoji's got to watch that, what's going on. But anyway, let's get into some real bullshit. You fucking seeing some of these people? I swear, you get these people that all that they want to do is bitch about everything. They're so weak. You tell them one thing that they don't like to hear, they're upset with you, they're done, don't talk to them. But then they come crawling back like a little hermit crab. They come crawling back like crabs, and nobody likes crabs. And I'm not just talking about, the hermit crabs. Never mind. But you just get these weak people, weak individuals that have no backbone, okay, that have they act like that they're this great thing, but what do they even do? Are they even a good person? And no, they're not. They're prank callers. They're dweebs. They're losers. Okay? And it's awful. Okay? Another thing that's absolute bullshit. I know I probably talked about it, but I was thinking about it today. Is, again, Starbucks shitty today. Once again, start off my day really bad. But, okay, you go to these drive-thrus or wherever you go, right? You get the plastic cup, and then you've got the paper straw. So your drink is gone halfway. Your tie's probably all like disgusting at that point because the straw's falling apart. It is literally, how do I say it? I would rather just shove the whole entire like drink. Like I don't even know what to say because it's like the cardboard. It's like, what if there's bugs in the cardboard? Then you got like these bugs. It's gross. That's a lot of bullshit so far. But hey, we got big things coming. Let's get back out because we got a really great episode. And that's not bullshit. And that's your segment of no more bullshit. Fit in or fuck off. Save America. And we're back from all that bullshit. So really, we just had a really great first half of the podcast. I'm really excited. Let's dive right back into our second half of the podcast. What do you think makes what makes a high school athlete's transition into college successful? Because you see a lot of these kids, they go in, they think who they are, and they end up really weak, and it just falls apart.
All right, so basically you're asking as far as an exceptional high school athlete that's going on to play college athletics?
All of them. Because like I know people that
Right.
will like go on, they'll do like the hockey.
Sure.
So there's get washed up.
There's going to be like, there's no doubt, like it's not too hard to identify. There'll be certain kids that will make commitments to certain schools, and I'm not trying to stereotype at all, but you can kind of see where their passion is with the sport. And trust me, these sports are extremely brutal on the body, especially in high school. I always say if you can make it through a high school season without being injured, you're pretty darn lucky. When you go to college, I would say it's going to be double as hard. And by that time, there's so much wear and tear on the body that at certain times you're going to have injuries. So, that's a tough transition. A young man may get injured. One of my favorite athletes is Joe Destro. He was a Bosco guy.
Joe Destro.
Probably one of the nicest human beings I ever met. I had the pleasure of meeting him when I was at Bergen Catholic, and we played him in one of our regular season games, and he had just gone through surgery. And you'd known these great stories about this kid because you heard about him in 8th and 9th grade. He's blowing up all over social media, best defenseman in 8th grade, 9th grade, offers all over the country. And then he had a tremendous amount of setbacks. So here's this young man who's probably, you looked at as one of the best lacrosse players in the country, torn ACL, re-torn ACL. And the fact of the matter is the young man is now at University of North Carolina. I had the chance to see him play in the Final Four this past Memorial Day. And I'm trying to answer your question is that he's been through so many surgeries that he has something inside of him. And it's like, if he gets injured again, I'd feel heartbroken for the kid. But for some reason, it's in his passion and DNA that he's going to keep on going forward. Sometimes you can identify young men like that, and it's just like, wow, you just know nothing will ever stop them. So I do give the transition in regards to your question. It is more difficult because when they do get to college, I'd say that the level of direction that these top Division I schools, you're constantly on the move. You're at practice at 6:00 in the morning. You may have a team meeting at 10 o'clock, classes, and then you have lifting in the afternoon. I mean, it is grueling. But the fact of the matter is these boys are there, and if you have the right mindset, you're going to finish. And I guess that's kind of where it comes through me to talk to a lot of these guys is that, setbacks are going to happen. Life is definitely not easy, but you have to keep on moving forward. And I'm not a big fan of quitting, but I do understand if young men do go to school and it just becomes all too much on them, that there's also the college experience that these boys need to receive too as well. So a lot of these kids at the Division I level, are they getting the full college experience as far as socially? Sometimes not so much because they're so wanted and needed by their coaches and their teams. But it's part of the whole experience. And if you have a love for what you're doing, I think that everything is pretty much comes along very easy if you have a love and passion for what you're doing.
We just talk about, tough people, everyone's getting through it and getting through their injuries. But, what are your thoughts? You look at the new generation with, youth sports and, this 2021, all this absolute BS, they start with everything. The one thing that drives me crazy is, it's everybody gets a participation trophy, and then, then they're so crazy that then it's like, oh, you're killing the turtles, with a plastic straw. No, a plastic straw. So here's a paper straw and a plastic cup.
Sure.
So now your tie, whatever you're wearing, it's all just completely ruined, right? Or then my favorite thing, what I saw is just how weak all these people are. Is somebody posted a photo of it was their dinner, right? And they've got a paper cup, and they go like saving the planet. Meanwhile, they're eating a fucking salmon. So you look at this mentality of how bad our country's gone and how far awful and how weak we've become. So how bad are these participation trophies that these kids are receiving at such a young age going to affect them as they get older and go on with their lives, where they get cut, mommy and daddy can't do anything about it?
Okay, I think you're kind of going into a great area here right now, where you're looking at giving awards and giving to people without achieving something, if I'm correct. Yes. There's a very small fine line that we're dealing with these youth kids, and each generation is different. For what this generation has gone through, last year and a half, it's been difficult on parents and adults. Now, children, these guys just had to sit through sometimes 5 days of classes, 8 hours, or 7 hours on a computer.
I got kicked out of a lot of mine.
Yeah, and I don't blame you. I really find it to be, it's almost repulsive, just the fact that we were trying to teach these kids for that long of a period. There's no way anybody can concentrate that long. I can't. A 10 and a 14-year-old definitely cannot at all either. But getting back to your question in regards to giving out things for free that aren't granted or earned, I'm not for that, but I do believe that these youth, we have to be extremely encouraging to our youth. But now as you get into high school, it's like, do you get a varsity letter for free? No, you don't. But do I have young men on my team that probably would not receive a varsity letter on other programs? Absolutely. Is that justified? Trust me, if they're going to be on the field with me, they're going to be working just as hard as everybody else. And I think that's kind of up to the coach. Listen, if you are going to be on one of our teams that I coach with or I work with, you're going to be working just as hard as everybody else. And your attitude and your mentality has to be exactly the same whereas everybody else does. So that kind of comes into coaching, is that, no, I'm personally not going to give anything away for free. I want to make sure that my job is to get these kids ready, that they have to earn things on their own. And there's no better feeling than watching a young man who could press 135 pounds, 2 years later is benching 350 pounds. I didn't do that. He did that. I helped him and motivated him, but he did that. I take no credit for any accolades that any of my athletes have ever received. At the end of the day, it's because they made a decision that they were going to wind up doing something for themselves and achieving something for themselves. And if you can get your young men into that type of frame of mind, I think you got them in the right place.
What's probably your favorite quote that you always go to when you're coaching?
Well, I'll tell you, this past year, and we were talking about, before we went on the set today, we were talking about Coach Saban, and I heard a story about him, and he was finishing a Alabama practice, I believe it was about 4 or 5 years ago, I'm not quite certain. And it was one of his teams that didn't perform. I mean, all of his teams performed. They just weren't performing, going undefeated. And he said to the team, he goes, we're going to finish off with 6 100-yard dashes. They run the first one, second one, third one, fourth one, fifth one. Last 100-yard dash, the entire team goes all out, runs faster than they've ever run before. He came over and he was angry. In his mind, he had seen what the problem was. The problem was that number 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, they went easy. 6, they went hard. Now, if they went hard on 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6, they'd be that much better of a team. And he basically identified them for who and what they were. They waited to the end. So I guess the concept is that what he teaches is that there is no, I broke into this before, that there is no tomorrow, that it's right here and right now. So it's basically what your decision is going to be. Are you going to give your all, or are you going to give half of yourself? Half of yourself is not going to get you anything. All of yourself will get you everything. So I think that was one of my favorite quotes, and I just kind of like translated that into us. You know, if we went into a drill or something like that, maybe I'd remind them of a story like that. But the story makes so much sense, and I guess you really can't argue against it because it calls you out for who you are.
You know, everybody always, talks about, what athletes do, and after practices or after, games, just like, relax. As a coach, what do you have to do, just go home, clear your mind, and get onto a different, mindset? How do you, flip that switch on and off? Or are you just in coach mode 24/7, 7 days a week? Because I know, when I coach in the season, I don't sleep at night.
Well, I mean, it's funny you say that just because I'm going to tell you what, after a terrible loss or something like that, I'll probably sit in bed next to my wife until sometimes 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, maybe talking to myself, going over things, and I'm not okay with the product that was put out that day. I look at myself, see where I could be better, see where our team could be better. And I think ultimately, whenever you have failure, you can kind of go back and look at the failure and say, I need to get better in these areas. If I can get better in these areas, the failure won't be that bad. And maybe that failure will turn into a win or a championship or whatever it may be. But more importantly, I guess it always comes down to you, the person, and you always know in your heart if you've given your all and you've done your best. That slogan of leave no stone unturned is such a great mantra to live your life by, because if you leave something else out there, you're going to say to yourself, by the way, I left it. I left it on the field. I could have done better. And I guess that's self-examination, what I do after a game was a tough one. But I think self-examination and the want to do better is, if you have that fight in you, you're in a good place.
Coach, that's all the questions I have for you. Have any questions for me?
I love what you're doing. I was honored that we talked, I think, during mid-season about doing the show, and I know you're promoting great things for this country, and you're getting some great guests on this program, some great people in our community, and I think that's another great thing, a segment that I could leave you with, is that we do have such an incredible community around us. We have such great kids and great parents, teachers and educators, that everything you see on the news at night is very, as you can imagine, is just so amplified in a negative way. And I don't think that feeding or buying into negativity has ever done anybody any good in life. And I wish you all the luck, and I hope to be back at some point. And it was great being on with you.
We'll see you soon. For Coach Rich, this is the Philosophy Podcast. Stay with us. I'll be right back to talk about the future. Right. What a great episode we just had. And now everybody's wondering, what are they talking about the future of the podcast? So we've got some very big things planned, some huge guests coming on. But before we're able to do any of that, there are things that we have to fix on multiple ends of the podcast. Editing, from the guests we have, we're going to get even bigger and better, to the things that we talk about, more topics, more juicy topics. And what that all comes with is where we need to take not a month off of the podcast whatsoever, but a month off of giving you this amazing content. But right now, we know that you're happy with the content that you're getting. But I can promise you this. After we take our month off, we're going to come back better, bigger, and stronger than ever before. This podcast is on its way up the mountain. And that mountain, when we're at the top, you'll be there with us. So I hope that you're going to stay with us, hold the line with us. Good luck on your adventures. We're going to see you really soon. And remember, if they can't see the light, make them feel the heat. This is the Philosophy Podcast. We'll see you soon.